Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to welcome all distinguished panels and participants to this online book talk session. In this occasion, we would like to have a fruitful discussion on, especially on halal governance from our distinguished panels. Before we start our session, let us recite Surah Al-Fatihah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this book talk session brings to you by the International Fatwa and Halal Center, IFFAH, and the USIM Press, or Penerbit USIM. The objective of this book talk session is to have a good discussion, especially on halal governance practices and framework, especially in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei. Besides, this session is also to introduce one of our latest textbook entitled Halal Governance and Management, Malaysia and ASEAN Country, edited by Associate Professor Dr. NURUL MUHAMED, Dr. HAKIMAH YAACOB, and Dr. NAZLINDA MUHAMAD, which is Dr. NURUL and Dr. NAZLINDA here as our panel today. Right? For your information, this textbook is a result from the collaboration of academicians from several centers and universities who focus on halal industry research and training. Their writings benefit for their direct exposure on halal training, teaching, and research in their respective countries. This project is supported by IHRAM that generously collaborated to fund the publication. Okay, this book focuses on halal industry in Malaysia and other ASEAN countries which are actively involved in the industry. The book is structured for readers at the intermediate and advanced level and covers comprehensive aspect of governance and management of the halal industry. Okay, before the discussion begins, allow me to introduce our distinguished panels. Right. For the first panel is Associate Professor Dr. NURUL MUHAMED. She is an Associate Professor in the Faculty of Economics and Muamalat, University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM, and a research fellow in Institute of Halal Research and Management, IHRAM. She obtained a bachelor degree in Sharia from University of Malaya, Master of Business Administration from Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, and Master of Islamic Finance Professional, MIFP, from INSAF. She was awarded with PhD in Business and Management from University of South Australia, with the research area in Islamic investment. Previously, she was a Deputy Dean, Academy and Research, and a HIT program of Bachelor Degree of Muamalat Administration of the Faculty of Economy and Muamalat, FEM USIM. She also a Sharia Committee member in Hong Leong MSIG Takaful, and previously was the Sharia Committee of Hong Leong Islamic Bank, Berhad. For our second panel is Dr. NAZLINDA MUHAMAD. She is a Senior Assistant Professor at University Brunei Darussalam School of Business and Economics, University Brunei Darussalam, UBD. She graduated from the University of Western Australia in 2009. She has been researching the influence of religion in the marketplace for the last 20 years and publishing in international journals including Psychology and Marketing, a Specific Business Review, and International Journal of Advertising. She involved in local and regional research consultancies, including for halal study. Meanwhile, for our third panel is Mr. Nurul Ismail. He is a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Islamic Economics and Business at Tazkiyah Islamic University College, Bogor, Indonesia. He also as a director in the Center for Study of Islamic classical texts. He obtained his bachelor degree in Islamic economics from Tazkiyah and Master of Islamic and other civilization from ISTAC, UIA in 2012. Currently, he is a PhD student at USIM. Ladies and gentlemen, for our book talk this session, we will divide the discussion into 3 rounds. At the first round, I will ask all panels to share with us on the background of halal industry in their respective country, which is Malaysia, Indonesia and Brunei. For the second round, we will continue the discussion on the current development in halal industry in these 3 countries, and the final round we will have an intense discussion on current issue and challenges for halal industry. Next, we will have a Q&A session where we will open for questions from the participants to be asked to our distinguished panels. Finally, we will conclude our session with some remarks based on our discussion and our session for today. First, to Associate Professor Dr. NURUL AINI, would you like to share with us the background of halal industry, especially in Malaysia context? Please welcome.
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My voice is clear, right?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, before we go on the next question, so the first question is look at on some background. So I will give or I will share some snapshots on halal industry in Malaysia, and then history, and then after that we look at on some features that might be different from one country to another country. Okay, for the first one, halal industry started from the basic one. For example, if you look at on now, the halal industry has been expanded into several areas. But while we're looking for the basic one, like the one that we always consume, food, beverages, and then we have pharmaceutical, cosmetics, the medical, and then now we have several aspects that have been included and promoted as halal, such as tourism, fashion, hospitality. Even though for this kind of the new expansion or new areas, some of them are not being located or monitored by the one authority body, such as in Malaysia we have JAKIM. So now for the tourism, fashion and hospitality, it already been part into another agency, such as tourism under the we have one standard under the tourism the agency, and then others is quite scattered, and also even we talk about Islamic banking, still put under it is under the different authority bodies. But when the promotion have been made by halal development corporations, all those things have been promoted in one halal industry theme under one umbrella. But then when we look at on each of the areas, they are being located into different under the different agencies. So based on the total halal industry, not included the Islamic banking and finance, 60% of the halal industry have been focused on halal food, and then others are others are being located under the cosmetics, pharmaceutical, and others. Okay, and then in terms of history, so even though we know that halal concept is not unique for Muslims, because we always forced to have the halal foods, beverages, and then in our daily life we have sorts of we must have the halal goods, products, and so on. Even though in vaccine, for example, we have some issues because even though most of the Muslim scholars, muftis, and so on, saying that it is harus to have the vaccine with some of the sources come from the non-halal, but basically that one is very what we call as unique, because in certain case it is allowed to use non-halal sauce if the situation is in darura. But what I want to say is that for Muslim, we put in our mind that we must have the we must consume the halal product, services, and also the kind of the products. Okay, so if you look at on halal industry in Malaysia and as well as regulation, it is quite unstable at the first, we can say that, because the authority for halal certification was moved from one body to another body. So when we look at on the in 1974 halal certification program, at that time it started with the certification letter, so no logos yet. So it was located under Research Center of Islamic Affairs and Division at that time. And in 1994, Malaysia introduced halal logo. So we have halal certification in terms of letter as well as halal logo. So the halal logo will we can show in the premises, factory, and so on, and also on the packaging. And then when I said that it was not stable at the first stage, at the earliest stage, if when we look at on 1998 and to 2002, halal inspection was performed by the private companies, even though we can say that the authority for halal is still at the federal authority, but in terms of inspection, it was run by the private companies. And in 2008, we can see that Halal Development Corporation take position to in charge on halal certification in 2008. And in 2009, the halal certification in terms of inspection, monitoring, and granting the certificate have been put under the JAKIM authority, or Jabatan Kemajuan Islam Malaysia. So what we can say that in terms of features on the regulatory framework, I can say that JAKIM now plays a large role because it controls the halal certification program at the federal, because we have another 14 states. So each religious department in each of our state also help the JAKIM to do the inspection and to come up with the, or to granting with the certification. But then, of course, when we say overall, JAKIM have full authority for halal certification. And then when we say state, so state only can give certification for any application within the state itself. Okay. Another features is that I think just now when I said halal certification is much more centered at the federal authority with the help of religious department. So these might be different, I think, from one country to another country. And another one is in terms of application. So no enforcement on halal certification, meaning that when we said application for halal certification, it based on the voluntary. So nobody will impose or force the company to apply the halal certification. So that's why in certain case we go to the news premises, like let's say the modern food, for example, like now everybody love the Korean food, boba and so on. So basically most of these small premises, they do not have the halal JAKIM yet. Okay. And another one is in 2020, HDC produced or issued the Halal Industry Master Plan 2030. So basically, this one is some sorts of the provide the guidance on the what is the future of halal industry in Malaysia. And then one of some of the idea is that they want to improve the existing plans for the halal industry, identify issues in halal industry, and what can be done to overcome those issues and the challenges. So I think Dr. Ikmal, this is for the first round.
Thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Nuraini, for the brief introduction on halal industry in Malaysia. From her sharing, we can say that halal industry journey in Malaysia quite what we call comprehensive, with full support from the government, especially when you said JAKIM as the regulatory body play such a large role, and Malaysia is kind of full centered in terms of monitoring and governing the halal industry. All right. And also we note that for halal certification in Malaysia, we have no enforcement for halal certification, but it be done by voluntary basis when companies apply for halal certification. All right. So next, we would like to ask Dr. NAZLINDA to share with us the background of halal industry in Brunei context. Without further ado, please welcome Doctor.
Thank you very much, Ikmal. First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. NURUL, for this opportunity, and also Usim, publisher. Okay, because we have already listened to Malaysian perspective. Malaysian perspective, given the landscape of the country, is definitely different from Brunei Darussalam. The effort of halal from Brunei perspective is pinned to the primary, what you call principle or national philosophy of Muslim, Malay Islam monarchy, MIB. This is the national philosophy that basically anchored all the national efforts, regardless of halal or any other efforts. But in this particular context, when we talk about halal, halal is definitely a key sector, a key strategic initiative that basically enforce, strengthen MIB philosophy at the national level. And more to that, the halal certification and industry in Brunei is very much linked to the economic development plan, what known as Brunei Wawasan 2035, as well as the 9th National Development Plan, 2007-2012. So these are basically one of the sector that received national priorities in investment, and definitely is one of the key things that highlighted by HM, the High Majesty. And definitely, because of that, the authorities that helps to realize in halal industry in Brunei is massive. It's a concerted effort throughout the government ministries. But of course, the halal certifier for halal certification is Brunei Islamic Religious Council, which is MUIB, and also Halal Food Control Division, which is under Ministry of Religious Affairs. And I think we know the fact that because this halal certification goes beyond food, but in Brunei, one of the main sector is importing food from outside. And that includes, especially as what we have right in the chapter in this particular book, is on the fresh meat imports. So that stresses the importance of other religious ministries, including ministries of health, agriculture, custom and excise. All these comes together to materialize this industry very strongly. And this definitely Brunei, when we talk about Brunei Halal, initially people might get confused between Brunei Halal as a brand and also Brunei Halal certification. There is a brand, a national brand called Brunei Halal. And this is also basically what you call in Malay serampang dua mata, the thing that we put forward together with this halal industry effort with Brunei halal certification. So these are two separate things. Basically, Brunei halal brand, which I think in 2007, it's a brand that involved collaboration across national interests. It's actually went to Europe and some in the countries within this region to collaborate to basically promote Brunei Halal brand. And this Brunei Halal brand is basically trying to boost the halal industry, starting off from local perspective and then going abroad. The trajectory is beyond locals' perspective. So you can see all this Brunei Halal brand, but the other one is Brunei Halal certification, which is the logo itself. This is basically enforced from 2005. So there are specific regulation, legal framework has been legalized and enacted upon from there on. So as you can see, the perspective from Brunei in halal industry, it is, of course, obviously, I have to mention that application for halal certification is obligatory. So all the food manufacturer from locals, agencies, companies, as well as those who serve local publics, food, restaurants, cafes, and everything. So they must apply for halal certification. Whether or not they will be granted the halal certificate is the second question, but they must apply. There are circumstances where a type of what you call food provider, restaurants who only serve non-Muslims, so they are fine, but they have to go through that and there will be limited approval in terms of other qualities in that sense. And this, at the moment, the certification for halal premises, halal facilities, and also manufacture of food, mainly is the concentration for halal Brunei industry at the time being. But of course, we have all the other regulations like for pharmaceutical products, cosmetics and things that has already been in place. But the process of putting it in practice are still in the process. And I think that's all from Brunei for the first round. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. NAZLINDA, to share with us on the background of halal industry in Brunei context. Based on her sharing, we can say that halal industry becoming one of the key industry highlighted in the Brunei Vision 2035, and also the ones that I captured is different from the Malaysia context, which the Brunei context is Brunei Halal certification, where Brunei Halal certification is obligatory for all F&B players to apply for them to operate. As compared to Malaysia, Dr. NURUL said that there is no enforcement for halal certification, which is on voluntary basis. And you also hear about the Brunei Halal brand, which is serampang dua mata, or killing two birds with a stone, which is to boost the halal industry agenda in Brunei. And we also interesting to hear that although the Brunei have significant or have giving the focus on the halal industry, but as we know, most of the food and product related to food are being imported in the case of Brunei, which is something that maybe give another some interesting thought on the, especially on the halal logistic and also warehousing according to the halal or Sharia compliant aspect. Maybe we can further to hear this after this from Dr. NAZLINDA. So thank you once again, Dr. NAZLINDA. So for our third panel, which is Mr. Nurizal.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Iqmal.
Question, Mr. Yes, please.
Ya, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. First of all, I would like to thanks to Associate Professor Dr. NURUL AINI for giving me a chance to share, yeah, from Indonesian perspective. I also to thanks to Dr. NAZLINDA MUHAMAD from UBD and Dr. Iqmal, yeah, from as a moderator, yeah, for giving me a very great time sharing information on halal management and industry in Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, this is the current condition, yeah, of Islamic economy in Indonesia. We are still in not as a player, yeah, but we are trying to become producers on halal industry. So from the data, we can see that the import portions, yeah, is greater than export portion in halal industry, yeah, as well as if we see the global Islamic economic report, yeah, Indonesia is still follower, yeah, compared to Malaysia and other Middle East countries, yeah, like UAE, etc. Therefore, we are trying to accelerate the halal industry to transform, you know, from traditional management to become more effective. Yeah, so we in 2019, yeah, government, Indonesian government released an act related to assurance of halal products. Yeah. So before 2019, yeah, Majelis Ulama Indonesia, yeah, has the full authority in halal management in Indonesia. So from audit and to certifications, all are under Majelis Ulama Indonesia. Yeah. But after 2019, when the act has been released, yeah, so there is a body, yeah, under the Ministry of Religious Affairs, Badan Penyelenggara Jaminan Halal, yeah. So the authority is been reduced, yeah. Majelis Ulama Indonesia just give the halal fatwa regarding food or drink or others element, yeah, that can be certified halal. Yeah. So the issue is when the transformation coming to halal management, the first is from voluntary, yeah, to obligatory basis. Yeah. Yeah. So when BPH, BPJ, HPH is coming, yeah, under Ministry of Religious Affairs, so the company, the firm, yeah, the big company or small medium enterprises, yeah, must be certified by the government. Yeah. Another issue is the process of halal certifications. Yeah. Before 2019, yeah, all in one doors, yeah, from in MUI, Majelis Ulama Indonesia. Now the process of halal certification is divided into some institutions. Yeah, so Badan Penyelenggara Jaminan halal ini, ya, this body, they cooperate with Majelis Ulama Indonesia and then badan POM, ya, and also cooperate with private auditor. Yeah. So here we have two auditor, yeah, in after 2019, yeah, which is hired by the government, yeah, LPPOM MUI, and then we also hire another private auditor, yeah, to see whether the product is halal or no. Yeah, this is the kind new of halal process after transformation of manajemen halal in Indonesia. So I think it is the issue, yeah, currently in Indonesia, yeah, that we can discuss further. Yeah, I think that's all my my explanation, yeah, Dr. Iqbal. Syukron. Wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nurizal, for your sharing on a little bit on background of halal industry in Indonesia context. All right. So we from his discussion or his sharing, we can say that the situation in Indonesia quite contradict as compared to Malaysia and also Brunei. As we can see, he said that before 2019, the monitoring and the governing of halal industry like in a centralized basis, which is by Majlis Ugama Indonesia, MUI. And after that, several bodies take place to play their role as the regulatory for halal industry, such as BPJPH under Ministry of Religion, and also the involvement, I think this is the interesting one, the involvement of the private auditor, especially for halal audit process. I think, and also we can hear from the Indonesia context is before this, the halal certification is on voluntary basis, which is like currently applied in Malaysia context, but now is becoming obligatory basis in Indonesia, which is similar to Brunei in this case. So I think we have a good discussion for the first round, especially on the background of the halal industry in terms of governance and also regulatory framework in this respective country. So let's move to our second round. All right. Okay. For this round, we would like to invite Dr. Nazlia first. Okay, Dr. Nazlia. From your understanding, what is the current development of halal industry in Brunei, and how you see this development as compared to other countries? Thank you, Dr. Nazlia. Please proceed.
Okay. All right. So in terms of development, I would like to stress 4 major points, but basically, what Brunei is trying to do is istiqomah on the path of making halal industry stronger, as well as to increase efficiencies in terms of the processes. And those are the main activities or development that basically going on in the country. And one particular perspective is on enhancing the halal certification systems, which will definitely help to provide more clarification on reliability and validity of the logo itself. So this is ongoing process, and I think very soon the Halal Brunei logo will have all these QR code and the latest technology in order for the consumers to validate the what you call reliability of a certain logo. And at the same time, there is particular interest on developing training module for all the relevant stakeholders, and especially for the inspectors that involve. So there are particular module being developed for these groups, as well as continuous training module for the officers for each and every certified organization, because each organization, they are certified halal, they must have 2 halal officers. So these officers will have a continuous training, and the module for this is partly has been in practice, but still in the stage of improving the contents of the module. And at the same time, I think the authority is doing their best to pay attention to the main stakeholder, which is the consumers. So tarbiyah, in a way of awareness and knowledge, a continuous effort. So the relevant officers arranged what you call like forums, seminars, in any other form that are relevant to particular groups, to talk to them and make them aware of Brunei halal, and also the importance of consuming halals. As I have highlighted in the first round, that it is the mission of the country to take care of its subjects, and this is what the main objective of halal industry in Brunei. And so there are several modules in that sense, in training and also awareness. And I would say the next one would be the development and strengthening of other standards of halal, because mainly we have been talking about food and beverages and food manufacturing and also facilities. But Brunei as well has already completed the halal logistic standards, but they are still in the pipeline. I would say that it will come out soon. And there are others as well that has been rigorously worked on, and hopefully will be out soon as well. And yeah, so that's basically what is going on in the industry currently. So I would be happy to say that because we as the researchers are basically maintain close contact with the officers at the Halal Food Center. So they are always busy and always working on improving and very attentive to any challenges. So they are helping the stakeholders to basically understand better, and hopefully Brunei Halal will move forward with all this development that's going on. That's it from me.
Thank you, Dr. Nazlinda. So based on her sharing, I can say that we can see several development, the current development happening in the halal industry. For example, she mentioned about introducing halal certification system including by using QR code, which is to validate the reliability of the halal logo. And we also can see in the Brunei, they are currently developing training modules for halal trainers, and also for the halal officer, because in Brunei, each certified halal company must have at least 2 halal officer, which is, I think, this is different as compared to other countries. And I think we are glad to hear that, because this is kind of to strengthen the halal industry itself in terms of playing an operational role by each stakeholder party, especially by the company, which is the one who offer the halal product and services. And also she mentioned about they do some awareness, including the tarbiyah, which is by conducting seminars, conference, and etc. And also they are currently strengthening the halal standard, which is including the halal logistic and also others few more, which is we can see that the direction of the halal industry in Brunei is, I can say, in a right or good track, which is to have a more comprehensive and governance on halal industry in Brunei itself. So that's about current development of halal industry in Brunei. So let's ask Mr. Nurizal to share about current development of halal industry in Indonesia context. So Mr. Nurizal, can you share with us? Thank you.
Yeah, inshallah. Current development of halal management in Indonesia, the government currently is trying to involve all stakeholders related to the development of halal management in Indonesia. The government involve universities to play a role to develop halal management in the country. There are many centers currently established in the university, like in Institut Pertanian Bogor, they have Pusat Kajian Sains Halal Institut Pertanian Bogor. Also in Institut Teknologi 10 November, So there are many again. Also in Taskia, currently we establish halal center supported by Central Bank of Indonesia, as one of the institutions of halal supervision institutions in Indonesia. So they gave a grant to us to make a laboratory and then make a model of halal canteen in our campus. This is one of the government support to university. I think not only Taskia, step by step they will support other campus, because in campus in the university they have a canteen. So all canteen should be certified halal. So this to make aware to students that halal is real, to be practiced in daily life of Muslim. Secondly, relating to age, 2014, also the government involving the ministry, not only the Ministry of Religious Affairs, the Ministry of Tourism and Economic Creative, it also involved to promote the halal certifications. Hotels, as one of the creative economic in Indonesia, and tourism, they should provide halal food and drink, and others halal industries, such as massage and etc. So by involving all elements, all stakeholders, this is hope of the government to accelerate the halal industry in Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, every day, if you see in Indonesia, universities and then other institutions, they are like to promote halal industry by conducting seminars, workshop, and in majlis, after after solat, all da'i, all ustad, they also tend to give preach relating to halal, because halal currently in Indonesia is something new and trend. That's why that I can say to you, Dr. Iqmal. Shukran.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nurizal. for valuable insight, especially on the current development on halal industry from the Indonesia context. Okay, from his sharing, we can see that there are several development movement for halal industry in Indonesia. For example, in Indonesia, universities in Indonesia used to develop currently actively to develop halal management. I mean, I think maybe the best model or other related to halal industry in Indonesia. And also Mr. Nurul said about the establishment of halal center in this university, and this center support by Bank Negara Indonesia, which is something like, you know, you have a very good or big support from the government itself in terms of financing to boost the halal industry agenda. And also we can say that there have awareness campaign like seminar, workshop, and also by using the more community, more close to the community engagement, like ceremony after the solah, I mean in the mosque itself, because this center is and mosque is more closely to the consumer, to the people itself. So lastly, we ask to Dr. Nurul AINI to share with us about current development of halal industry from a Malaysia perspective or Malaysia context. Please, Dr. Nurul AINI. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ikmal. So basically, for Malaysia, I think we have seen that there are several changes, improvement have been made by the government of Malaysia. In terms of the governance, as we can see in new guidelines and regulations issued by JAKIM, and then we have also improvement in terms of education and training, as well as we have the strengthen the collaboration among the universities through their halal centers. So Alhamdulillah, IRHAM is part of the development in Malaysia. So to support the government initiative through training, research, and so on, which I will explain later. Okay, the first one, before on the regulations and governance, we can see that last year we have we see that there are two documents have been issued by the JAKIM, and then the first one is Halal Certification Manual Procedure 2020, which replaced the Halal Certification Manual Procedure 2014. And then we have also Malaysia Halal Management System 2020, which also replaced the guidelines for Halal Assurance Management System 2011. So these two new documents or guidelines, so basically change the landscape of halal governance or Sharia governance in halal industry in Malaysia. And then because we can see that there are several strengthened proposal have been made by the JAKIM to strengthen the Sharia governance in terms of halal industry. And these two documents will be already being implemented start 1st January 2021, which I think that most of the players try to now to adopt with these new changes. Okay, let me snapshot a little bit on the content of these documents. The first one, we can see that now JAKIM already include or focus on micro and small companies also, in addition to existing one, which is the multinational and medium companies. So meaning that when we say that the entities that issue halal products or want to apply for halal products, so meaning that it is what we can say that this is not limited to the large or the medium company, because now is the regulation now comprehensively enforced also to small and micro companies. But in terms of what we can say that of course, because these micro and small companies, their capital is smaller, so basically in terms of regulation it's quite not too strict compared to what we can say is multinational and medium company. Okay, so the first one, when we look at on the internal governance of onsharing aspect, I think this one is similar with other countries. We have the board of directors and so on, but in terms of the Sharia governance, the JAKIM imposed multinational and medium companies to have their own internal halal committees and follow the assurance requirements, such as they need to come up with audit and review process. Okay, so this I think the requirements are sort of similar with the previous one, but then in terms of audit review, it has been strengthened. Okay, in terms of small and micro companies, we can see that for the small companies, of course, they must have the Muslim workers, but for small companies, they must have the Muslim supervisors. And then in terms of micro companies, these micro companies must have the Muslim workers at least one. Okay, so these are the new things that I can see that the inclusion of the regulation and governance now to include the small and micro companies. Okay, and then in terms of education and training, the government of Malaysia introduced Halal Professional Board, HPB, which give the certification for the trainers from some universities to provide the training such as the professional executive program, which is introduced to the companies, whereby the companies must send their workers to these trainings, whereby all the trainers are certified by JAKIM. So that these trainers already follow the TOT modules, and they are being given some what we call they have the capacity to produce to give the training to the participants, which first step must come from also the companies. And also what I can say, Hiram also being part of this collaboration under the Halal Professional Board. And we also in Malaysia have the consortium, whereby some universities are under Halal Consortium. They collaborate among each other. So some of the universities that involved with this consortium for halal, which is IIUM under INHAD, University Sains Islam Malaysia under IHRAM, University Putra Malaysia under IPPH, and University of Malaya under IHRUM. So basically, these are some of the improvements that have been made by the government to actually strengthen the halal industry in Malaysia. I think some of the topic have been covered in the book. So basically, these are some of the initiative made by the government in terms of strengthening the governance, education and training, as well as collaborations among the university. Okay, that's all, Dr. Iqmal.
Okay, thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Nurul, for her sharing on current development in halal industry in Malaysia context. So basically, from her sharing, we can say that Malaysia especially have some improvement in terms of halal governance by issuing a new guidelines by JAKIM. We have two new guidelines related to halal, which is a halal certification manual process 2020 and Malaysia Halal Management System 2020. Okay, and we can say that from this new guideline, JAKIM currently to include micro and small businesses and companies to be part of the halal industry, because before this the focus or the concern is more on the large and medium size of company. And also we can see in Malaysia the halal industry is strengthened by have halal collaboration with several industry by establishing a few halal center. And in Malaysia we also have halal professional board, which is as an administrator to give certified to trainers which have been go through TOT and several training before they can go and give training on halal industry. In this third round, I would like to ask Mr. Nurizal first. So, Mr. Nurizal, what is the current issue and challenges faced by halal industry in Indonesia, especially from the governance aspect? Although we hear before this, you share with us there is a transition from the centralized monitoring from Majlis Ugama Indonesia, which is MUI, to several regulatory bodies, which is we keen to know in depth what kind of challenges faced due to this such transition. Can you share with us, Mr. Nurizal?
Okay, Dr. Iqbal. Yeah, one of the biggest challenges in halal governance and management in Indonesia is pricing. Yeah, this is one of the biggest challenges. The pricing of halal industry for especially for SME, small medium enterprises. Yeah. So the price is about in for enterprise, yeah, private auditor, yeah, they charge is about 1 to 45 million. It is about 1,000, yeah, 300 ringgit Malaysia. Yeah. I think it is so expensive, yeah, comparing to Malaysia, yeah, or Brunei. But if they go to LPPOM MUI, the institutions, government institution who audit the product, yeah, it is very cheap, yeah, yeah. So the small and medium enterprises cannot go to private, yeah, because the price is so expensive, yeah, comparing to big company, yeah. But also the service, yeah, this, yeah, comparing to government and then private, yeah, private more, you know, yeah, more excellent, yeah. It is one of the challenging that we are facing today regarding halal governance and management. And also regarding the you know, we are still in the in conditions issuing some fatwa, yeah, regarding halal beverage, yeah. So there is still debating between the ulama and the government, yeah, to the way to promote halal industry. Yeah. So it is relating to fatwa. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is that I can answer your question. Yeah, yeah. So pricing, it is one of the biggest challenge in Indonesia currently.
Okay, thank you to Mr. Nurizal. So we can say that from his sharing, there are two main issues apart from the transition of the monitoring and governing of halal industry, which is pricing, which is when they have a private initiative or private involvement, especially on the halal audit process. So basically, we can say that it is private. So for sure, the price is quite high or expensive as compared to the government services. And maybe from this we can say that if for large or a big company, there is no problem to use or this kind of services as compared to micro and small enterprise, which is the pricing is quite high. And another issue that raised by Mr. Nurizal is about some issue in issuing fatwa on halal, because there is some, I think maybe some what we call maybe more on technical issue by Majlis Ugama Indonesia and also by the government, which is by his regulatory respective body for halal administrator. And this too is the key point highlighted by the Mr. Nurizal. So next, I would like to ask Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Aini to answer the similar question, because on the current issue and challenges faced by Malaysia in halal industry. As we know, the latest we have several hot issues regarding on halal in Malaysia. What is your opinion on this matter, and how you look this from the halal governance point of view or aspect? Can you share with us, Dr. Nurul? Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Dr. Ikmal. So basically, as you said just now, in Malaysia, I think during December 2020, we have been quite surprised with issues related to halal meat contamination as well. It's not only on the contamination, but it was claimed that that some meats imported to Malaysia is basically is non-halal, so meaning that it has been packed together with non-halal. So we are not sure whether that meat is it beef or kangaroo or something that is a question. So all of these things are questions. So what I can say that the issue is not only on contamination, but it's also on non-compliance. So we can see that some of the owners of the companies, especially on logistics, I think have been arrested by the government. And then I think the process and was not closed yet, so it is still in the process. So what can I say from this issue of imported meat? The claim saying that they involved the meat cartel, so involved few years ago, 40 years ago, but we not sure on the claim until there is some evidence on that. But I can say that from this issue, it is related to rules of governance in terms of review, in terms of audit process. So whereby the internal the external governance, we cannot rely on only on external governance. We also must rely on the internal governance, the process of audit review, that I think that it should be independent. So when Mr. Nurizal mentioned about audit on halal industry have been served by the private companies, by the external, that one is quite interesting, because when we look at on the internal governance as imposed by the JAKIM, so most of the IHC or internal halal committee, as well as audit and review functions, been performed by internal staff. So we are not sure how far the efficiency of these rules, because this is the new guideline. So it may take some time to look at on what is the impact. Another thing is that in terms of we need to strengthen the governance, I think we also need for collaboration from the scientists to trace the imported meat come to Malaysia. While we can see that it might be the halal meat is claimed as halal, because as I read, JAKIM does not issue certification for imported meat, because they depends on the halal certification body that have been recognized by JAKIM. So of course we need to have sorts of that strict enforcement at the port, and then we need also collaboration from the scientists to trace also once in a time. So I think that are the important thing that we need to look at, because we cannot say that this issue come because of the JAKIM staff, or because of the staff in port, like say immigration and others, because we do not know yet. But for this time being, I think all must collaborate to solve the issue. I think that is one issue that very hot nowadays, Dr. Kemal. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurul. So from her sharing, we can say that the issue that currently being argued and debated in Malaysia is on the issue in the December 2020, when we have some contamination of halal meat, but as the issue still in the investigation, so we cannot say too much, because we don't know what is actually happened. But based on this issue, Dr. Nurul said that the important highlight that she want to say is we cannot rely on the external party, I mean especially from the regulator only, to monitor and governing the halal industry, but must also from the internal party as well. But as the new regulation says that the involvement of the internal halal committee, which is from the internal staff. So there is a question there about how far the efficiency to look up on the halal process or halal operation in the company by this internal staff. And Dr. Nurul also raised some good recommendation, especially on the imported meat. I mean, to recognize or to identify the halal of this by have such a collaboration with scientists to trace the halal product, maybe by using the technology like blockchains. And also Dr. Nurul said we must have good more enforcement on the halal audit as well. I mean halal audit, especially from the external, like in Indonesia we have a private halal audit process. So maybe this also can be looked up by the Malaysian government to improve their current or existing halal monitoring and governing procedure and process. Same question, Dr. Nazlinda. What is the current issue and challenges faced by Brunei in halal industry?
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. It has been highlighted that in terms of the process of certifying halal producers, this is specifically to not small but micro businesses. So this is the main challenge, I would say, at the moment, because the landscape of Brunei's marketplace is a bit different, where, for example, the residents basically buy foods, especially like, for example, breakfast. I think it goes the same to other countries as well. But in Brunei, they basically sell at particular small retailers in their suburbs. So, and they have to pack their product well. So when they pack their product, they even though they are, you know, like aunties next door who's producing fried noodles or whatever, but they have to be certified halal. So this is the micro level businesses which impose a very great challenge to the certifiers, to the agencies, due to the fact that they have to go to the premise of those aunties, for example, to basically see whether they are using halal ingredients. And that is rather less difficult for them. But the more challenging is the Toyiban perspective, because most of the time, almost all the time, these premises are basically their kitchen. So basically you have to dictate the cleanliness of these households' kitchen. So that is something that the authorities are still finding the most efficient ways to deal with it. And the next one is still in terms of process. Because as I think everybody understood the fact that Brunei import a lot of products, and our manufacturers also use imported products. So this is another real challenge where Brunei actually need to certify the ingredients. For example, if you are using a certain flavor, and then they need to know that that particular flavor brand is halal. So they have to dig into the ingredient used to produce the flavor. And in some circumstances, inspector need to go to the premise, to the manufacturing facility, which could probably be abroad. So this is also becoming not only a technical challenge, but also a very costly one. But due to the fact that Brunei relatively, theoretically, very strict in applying their standards, halal standards, these are followed through, but then it becomes a challenge, obviously. And the other issue would be adjusting, managing, in recognizing halal certifications of other agencies and other countries. Because as in Brunei, there is one, and for Malaysia, there is one, and even though like in our region, we are Shafi'i by school of thought, but that never actually dictate the same standards in halal certification. So, but in this case, in this region, we have less issues. We do have certain evidence that bring forward to the authority on the possibility of contamination or non-compliance, so that will be investigated further. That becomes a challenge because you have to basically face up to other authorities and saying, this is what we discovered. And it is not the same as what you claim. So as halal, and that is rather challenging for the authority in Brunei to deal with it. But most of the time, as being strict on the certification, the authority normally stand their ground, and yeah, so they will basically investigate and use the result that discovered within the country. Basically, you have to reinvestigate the specimens again, even though it has already been certified halal by other authorities. So that is definitely a challenge. Obviously, we know the fact that for this region, we have a strong collaboration and all this golden triangle, and then under ASEAN. So there's a lot of effort there to basically bring us together. And I'm sure that these authorities are now, they are friends to friends sort of relationship between the authorities to basically standardize the standards. But the gaps are still there, and I think that's natural. And I think the last challenge I would highlight is on the pandemic, because who can be 100% prepared for the pandemic? And obviously, this pandemic has brought quite a major issues in Brunei, to the fact that Brunei cannot eat as usual because Bruneians and all the residents in Brunei, the eating out industry is quite prominent. There are many restaurants, and most of them, as you can expect, they import products. And in particularly, I would highlight, because this is one of the aspects, halal meat, yeah, fresh meat, that we highlighted in the book. Brunei has a very strict procedure on bringing in fresh meat into the country. So what they did is basically on request of the manufacturer, because there are several what you call importers of fresh meats in Brunei, and there are very few, obviously, and they have to apply for bringing in container of fresh meats into Brunei, and Brunei government will send those from MORA, Ministry of Religious Affairs, to basically inspect each and every container, seal it before it is sent to the port and then shipped to Brunei. So this is basically a practice that been going on, and each, I think each importer will have a specific like a limit to what they import. So these, obviously, because of the pandemic, the inspector are not able to travel, and of course some of the abattoir that has been certified also involved in lockdown. So we have issues, shortage of, but that was like just a few months, and now everything is quite back to normal. But it is important that whatever procedure that you have on hand, you need to have a contingency plan, because if you just have one-way road, when things, if there is a blockage, then how you deal with it? I mean, that is what the authorities taking from this pandemic. So they are working on the contingencies, alternative models on how to deal with shortage and issues like this pandemic brought us in terms of bringing in products. I think those are the major issues and challenges I would like to highlight today. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nazlinda, for your very interesting sharing on the current issue and challenges faced by halal industry in Brunei. So basically, what can I summarize from her sharing is halal is our main focus, but another thing which is toyiban is we can consider as another issue or challenges faced, but I think not only in Brunei, but for other countries, all of the country in the world, I think, because halal, we have more focus on to make sure whether the product and services is halal, but another thing which is toyiban is another perspective that basically we are less focused as compared to the halal. But in Quran also we said halalan toyiban, which is together, right? So which is this is the good issue raised by the Dr. Nazlinda, and also because the landscape of Brunei is very depending on the importing foods and other materials for their industry. So this situation makes the halal governance and monetary process become more costly due to that they need to certify and to inspect each ingredient used in the product and services produced in Brunei. And also not to forget, Dr. Nazlinda also mentioned about issue faced due to COVID-19 pandemic, where based on the usual operation, when the MORA, Ministry of Religious Affairs, will send their officer to do some inspection before they seal, especially on the halal meat, before they seal the container and ship to Brunei. But this process cannot be done due to the lockdown period. And I can say this kind of halal process, I mean halal operational process, is quite a good a recommendation for other countries like Malaysia, when we can see this as maybe a solution to our current halal contamination or halal issue that just raised by Dr. Nurul. And also you say about the contingency plan, about because Brunei is too depending on the imported goods and services. So maybe I think this also happened in Malaysia, but I'm not sure in Indonesia, because I think Indonesia have surplus, especially on foods. So maybe after this, especially for halal industry in Brunei and Malaysia especially, we need to see the contingency plan, contingency plan, especially on the food security and how to produce more halal food within the country itself. So basically, we have already one question: how Malaysia to boost and achieve food halal security. We just mentioned about halal food security and self-sufficiency according Maqasid Syariah during pandemic COVID-19. I think for this question, maybe it's suitable for Dr. Nurul to answer for this question. Can Dr. Nurul?
Okay. In terms of halal industry, so we know that it's related to the preservation of religion, akal under the maqasid. So basically, what I would like to say that, of course, we need to have our self-sufficiency program in terms of food, because especially during the COVID, everything, the business have been closed. The the borders was locked down and so on. So of course, in terms of the food supply might be impacted. So, but Alhamdulillah, in Indonesia, we still do not face with those kind of the problem for this time being. But in terms of having some precaution on to have some program that able to secure the food supply, especially the halal food supply, is very important. I think one of the way is through the encouragement of the government to provide the initiative grants and so on, in order to encourage people to come up with the projects involving in agriculture and so on. And another one is through the digital program, because last few years I attend some the workshop on the digital program in halal industry. So one of the company we call as Serunai Commerce. I'm not sure whether some of us heard about this company, but this company actually provide the platform to offer each of the participants, the business entities or the producers, to meet with the suppliers, whereby it is through the digital. And then all the suppliers, they actually already got the certification. So meaning that even though the product comes from the other countries, but the players in Asia, the business owners in Asia can trace through online. So what Dr. Ikmal said just now about Bitcoin also is related to with this platform. So meaning that the companies can buy the products, but before they come up with decisions to buy, they can check where the products come from, what is the code, the halal status, all those things they can find through the platforms. Another thing that through the within this time of pandemic, the lockdown, we can say that the digital business becomes very popular. We have the Grab Food, Food Panda, all those things have been, because the last few years we are not familiar with it, even myself. But now everybody buy through online. And then we have the e-wallet, we have Shopee, all those things. So that one already exposed us to digital business, digital platform. But I think one of the things that the government can do is how to encourage the small business, small farmers in outskirts and in rural areas to join the platform that can meet them with the business owners or the customers, because by having that kind of the relationship through the platform, the farmers or the micro business, they can supply the goods or the let's say the agriculture products direct to the business owner that can also produce the another goods, or to sell their products to end customers with a cheaper price. I think we need to innovatively use the digital technologies in order to achieve the food halal security and sufficiency for this during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurul. I have my personal one question, especially to Mr. Nurizal, based on halal industry in Indonesia. Because before this, Mr. Nurizal said about, the transition, I mean, in terms of halal governance from the centralized MUI to BGPH, I mean the another several regulatory body to decentralize, I think. So maybe you can share to us a little bit more on how this transition could affect, I mean, in halal industry in terms of the monitoring and governing process, whether it's more effectively or whether because you said before this is a voluntary basis and now it is obligatory. So how this transition will help or to boost the regulation from the voluntary to the obligatory process as well. So maybe you can share with us a little bit more, Mr. Nurizal. Thank you.
COVID-19 is in line with the establishment of Badan Pengelola Jaminan Halal in Indonesia, 2019. Yeah. So it is very interesting to me because the data show us that halal certification registrations in COVID-19, the trend is positive, increasing, in the website. So it means this body play a role to boost halal industry effectively and efficiently, by involving other stakeholders. As I mentioned, they involving government and private body, for auditor. So it make accelerating, for registration process. So the data here showed us that registration during a pandemic is increasing. So I think after COVID, this will continue to be increased for our certifications registration. In our set in Taskia, now we receive many registration from SME, model small medium enterprises, to register his product. But some we suggest them to register with kind of product, not only single product. Because once they register one product, so in the current situation, they make new product, so they cannot put halal, after they audit again. So they should waiting for re-auditing, in order to add some product in their restaurant, for instance. So some practice in our case in Taskia, some product they just register one product. So we just you have to another product, because this the price is so expensive. Instead of you will in running time, you will make new product. Yeah. So this kind of practice in our set in Tazkiyah, yeah. So we suggest them for SME, to when they register, yeah, for the product, they should have a kind of product, not only single product, because the price is cheap, expensive. Sorry. Yeah. So I can conclude that the new body is play role, yeah, in efficiently in our halal management. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nurizal. How Brunei managed to monitor its halal process, since Brunei is very strict for its halal procedure? Is the process solely done by the government or also involve private parties such as private auditor and etc.? Thank you, Dr. Nurizal. Can you answer that?
Yes. Basically, definitely is a very not easy. I can feel the difficulties and all the challenges by just talking to the officers, the relevant that are in charge of it. Because though, difference to other countries probably, halal is basically a national priority sector. And it is more than just for economic purposes, but HM, His Majesty's personal interest. So the government that is under him, given that sort of landscape, resources are basically channeled towards this effort. By saying that, what I'm basically, resources are there, so they try to make it happen. Whether it is difficult, yes, definitely it's difficult. For example, I think the last 2 years I heard about, in fact, I can see how the size of the unit increased significantly. So they try to increase inspectors, that sort of thing. And if you are referring to the process that where companies basically, like what I have mentioned about meat, importing fresh meat, this is not bared by the government. The company need to pay for the process, the cost. So that is how one of the strategy that basically a way around it. So not everything we have to pay, but the company who applied for it, even though the processes are very strenuous, very complicated, but companies need to work along with the agencies to make it happen. And how we can make it happen, I think this is more on the level of commitment. Yes, that's just it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurlida. Why Malaysia can't make it as obligatory to apply for halal certificate like Brunei and Indonesia? What is the main obstacle for this? I think maybe Dr. Nurul, can you answer this question? Thank you.
Based on my opinion, because Malaysia it's a multi-cultural, multiracial countries with, it's not just a Muslim. So we have Chinese, Indian, and so on. And then they have their own products also. They have their own foods. So it is not easy to impose all the companies to apply for halal certification, but I think that the market force also should play some roles, which means the consumer itself must use their strictness in terms of halal intention to consume the halal goods, and do not enter into those kind of premises or food producers that promote. Sometimes if you go to premise, they said no pork based serve, for example. So the market players should use their force to ensure that all those companies have some intention, encouragement to apply for halal certification. I think if we want to force all the company is good, but I'm not sure its applicability for this time being. So what we can do is to encourage the usage of market force, as well as to come up with lots of awareness program trainings in order to open the eye of the especially youngsters, because they love to try the new things, new foods, and then of course it will encourage people or the business owner to come up with a new goods or new foods, but without the halal certification. So we need to train those youngsters from the secondary school, from early. Okay, the parents also play some role, but to say that we need to force every companies to apply for halal certification, so I don't think it can happen for this time being. So it might be in the future, inshallah.
Based on your point of view, I can say that due to the multicultural and multi-racial in Malaysia, so we cannot adopting obligatory enforcement for halal certification. But why not Malaysia starting by enforce the obligatory for Muslim owners company, for example, not for the non-Muslim, but for the Muslim. Why not they do not enforce such obligatory? Maybe you can add a little bit more, Dr. Nurul. Thank you.
Okay, I agree on that idea, Dr. Ikmal. Of course, even I think in Brunei, I have some experience living in Brunei in a short time. So alhamdulillah, because if we go to the premises, having food and so on, of course, most of the Bruneians love outing, food outing. So basically, it is not, we're not worried on is it halal or not, because we know that all of them are halal unless it is for the non-Muslims, right? But here, I think the government may impose on that regulation, but before that, they must provide with the awareness program. It's not only on about halal, but it's about the practicality, how to serve the halal food, beverages, and other kinds of products, as Dr. Nazlinda said. It's about the practice on how to serve, how to deliver the halal goods and foods also. So it's also awareness. I think it starts with awareness. Okay. And one more thing, Dr. Ikmal, if I can add, it's about the usage of halal logo itself, because some people, when they said ha lam alif lam without looking at the actual or original cert, so they feel like, oh, it's okay to go inside, or they can see that all staff consists of Muslim wearing tudung and so on, so they feel happy to go inside. So that's the problem also.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurul. I think that's the priority is more on the awareness in the situation, right? And what I can say that yeah, after so much development happened and implemented in the halal industry in Malaysia, but still the consumer, which is the main stakeholder, plays such important roles to ensure the compliance, especially for the Muslim in their everyday life by consuming halal product and services as well. So maybe we can say that the government need to look into the awareness campaign and programs as well, aside from the strengthening the governing and monitoring role as well. So each company may have 2 halal officer in Brunei, right, Dr. Nazlinda?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Okay. So if you said that every organization or every company must have at least 2 of halal officers to ensure the operational, the halal operation in the company. So how Brunei ensure that these officers, halal officers, have adequate trainings as well as competency level. How about it? Because you know, suddenly you have so many demand and vacancy in the halal officers position. So how you want to ensure that the people who fill up this position have adequate knowledge to ensure such a halal process going smoothly as it plans. Can you elaborate on that, Dr. Nazlinda? Thank you.
Yes, yes. So for these two halal officers, basically is for organizations that apply for halal certificate, and especially for restaurants, meaning when it's in operation, at least one of the officers need to be in duty. So they are not from the government, but they are the company's staff. And I did mention about the module training for this group, and that is where the authorities impart the knowledge and all the technicalities that they need to ensure during their organization's operation hours.
Thank you, Dr. Nazlinda. So, any idea from all the panels towards halal hotel in our region? Because nowadays, it seems that hotel players started to promote themselves as halal hotel. So that's the question. I think maybe he want to ask about hospitality, halal hospitality. So maybe the development on the halal hospitality. What is the halal hospitality in Brunei, in Indonesia, and also in Malaysia? Can you guys share something about this?
Can I just start with that, because I think I have not much to say anyway. But first of all, I would applaud Indonesia for I think many years of being the champion for the best in halal tourism in this, I think, global halal crescent. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, as in per Brunei perspective, we have not so many as you can predict, the hotels, but obviously all these hotels are already governed by certain policies that making sure their operations abiding to Islamic law. For example, there will be no alcohol served as within the whole country. And there are no massage parlor, if you like, spa that are going beyond what normally expected within Islamic framework. And most of these hotels are either business or family oriented. And basically the Sharia frameworks applied to hotels in Brunei as well. I would pass to counterparts from Malaysia and Indonesia.
Yeah, in Indonesia, Sharia tourism or Islamic tourism, the government must concern to this area under the Minister of Economic Creativity and Tourism. Yeah, so the government issued parameters on halal tourism. Yeah, there are two parameters: Hilal 1 and Hilal 2. Yeah, Hilal 2 is more rigid. Yeah, regarding beverage, regarding the place of toilet. Yeah, cannot go to the Qiblat. Yeah, and then should be Al-Quran in the room. Yeah, so there is a surau in the hotel. Yeah, and etc. regarding to two parameters. Yeah, it is in collaboration with Majelis Ugama Islam in Indonesia, and the government also assigned some province in Indonesia to become a model of Islamic tourism. Yeah, like in Aceh and then Padang, and then Lombok. Yeah. Lombok is in about 3 years ago, and then just received again the best halal tourism in the global. Yeah, so they follow the parameter made by the government, by Ministry of Economic Creative. and tourism. Yeah, this Sharia tourism cannot be successful without cooperation with other institutions, ya, with BPH-JH, ya, Badan Penyelenggara Jaminan Halal, ya, because the food in the hotel, ya, should be assured, ya, this is halal and toyiba product, ya. Also the others product, ya, in hotel, ya, should be assured this free from haram. So I think that's all my answers, Dr. Iqmal.
Okay, for this time being, I think the authority body do not come up with a certification for the whole halal hotel, but there is some halal hotel that they claim as halal. So usually they use the certification from MS 1900. Sharia-based quality management system under SIRIN, because that one is quite comprehensive. They look at on the ingredients, they look at on the management, having surau or not, the separation between men and women, the visitors. So I think when part of it, there are few hotels that claim for halal. It might be kita husnuzon, it get the certification from MS 1900. So I think that's one of the way how this halal hotel can get the certification, but it's not from the sort of the regulatory body. It's from SIRIN.
In Malaysia, we practice remote audit for auditing an application during pandemic. How about in Brunei and Indonesia? I think maybe in terms of halal industry, how the halal audit process is being done, especially during the COVID-19. I think that's the question. Okay. So maybe Dr. Nurul, you can conclude first, and then Dr. Nazlinda and Mr. Nurizal, as well as to answer the question or to respond to the question as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Iqmal, to be our good, very best chairman today. So I will provide some conclusion. So basically, halal is the obligation for us in our daily life. Come from the heart. So meaning that you can without a very divine what we call intention. On the consumers, on the regulators, immigration staff that we say that we said anything to them, but then the JAKIM, so all those things comes from the spirit of having or serving the halal good and services. So everybody must responsible to it. And of course, when we talk about maqasid, as I said again, it is under the preservation of religion, because it has been mentioned to consume halal meat, for example, not to consume pork, alcohol, and so on, and as well as to have the clean minds, because it's part of the preservation of akal also. So everybody must responsible. It's not up to the regulators only. It can be this internal governance, internal staff, because I think if we have good staff that have the spirits of serving the halal good, so we may remove, or we can reduce all the issues in the halal industry. It start from the bottom staff until the top management. So of course the governance play very important roles to safeguard the halal compliance as well as the consumers. So what I want to say is everybody is responsible. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nazlinda. You can continue.
Okay, so first, maybe I can just answer the question. For halal certification, basically halal meat, what Brunei did during the pandemic is to basically deliver the task to the embassy, Brunei embassy in those particular country. So that's basically what they've done. Yeah, because they still cannot send MORA staff to go and check the premises and the container and whatnot. So the embassy staff will take over the task for the time being. And for the concluding remark, I would say that the landscape of Brunei halal industry as a whole is unique because of the strategic national interest. So the difficulties faced by other landscape is probably in some cases are not replicable here, and the challenges as well is the same. So for Brunei, this area is definitely see the way forward, clear path, and the challenge for Brunei is just to improve the system and to basically expand the services to several other areas as well. And I would definitely add a remark from our halal officer that would like to maintain and in fact strengthen regional collaboration. And they definitely appreciate the fact that regional authorities can work together in improving and helping each other in this industry. And yeah, I think that's all from me. And probably the last one is I would thank everyone that support. We actually did a research supported by ASEAN, and definitely UBD has one research trust on halal that is from educational institutional research perspective. So definitely they have been very helpful in helping us to basically open their doors and learn the process that they've went through for coming out with this halal certification in Brunei. That's it from me. Thank you.
So in Indonesia, yeah, we are still working for auditing halal certification. Yeah, currently in our case in Taskia, yeah, in this current months, yeah, all of our penyelia, yeah, our supervision, they are going outside, yeah, to audit small medium enterprises, yeah, to take halal certification. So if you see in my slide that registration during pandemic, yeah, is increasing. Yeah. So all auditor they are going to see the process of halal product in their company or small medium enterprise sectors. So my concluding remark is so working in halal is not only government task. Yeah, it is all Muslim obligations. Yeah, individual obligation, because it is our task as a Muslim to promote halal. Yeah, so halal is a kind of commandment, yeah, from Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Therefore, it is our obligation, yeah, not only government, academicians, yeah, or practitioners, yeah, but we should work together, yeah, to bring this halal, yeah, to become daily life in our situation. Thank you, Dr. Iqmal.
Can I just add one more thing to that question? I forgot the fact that I was answering it in the context of overseas auditing. Basically, in Brunei, there is no issue of, you can say there is no issue of lockdown or COVID-19. So local and domestic operations is as mostly as usual. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nazlinda. And also thank you to all Dr. Nurul, Dr. Nazlinda, and also Mr. Nurizal for sharing with us. I think very, very interesting insight about halal governance and also other related to halal process and etc. in Malaysia, in Brunei, and also Indonesia. Okay, I think that's all for this session. Once again, for those who are interested to buy our latest book, you can buy it online through Shopee website or direct to USIM Press website. Okay, at present the price is about ringgit Malaysia, 45 ringgit, or in USD is about $10 something. I think that's for outside Malaysia. Once again, thank you thank you to all for having such a good time with us, and see you soon in another session, inshallah. I end up this session with tasbih kafarah and surah Al-As. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.